Okay, so good afternoon and welcome to today's lecture. In this lecture, we're going to cover chapter 3 of the PHP 7 tutorial. This particular tutorial, or the notes, I've gotten it from the site w3schools.com. I also encourage you to go and practice some of the exercises that are there and even read the notes further from W3 Schools. So today, I'm going to teach you about PHP constants. We're also going to talk about PHP conditional statements, and finally we're going to look at PHP loops. Now, just like in C and in C++, constants are just variables. Only difference is that they remain unchanged after they have been defined. So once you've created a constant and assigned it a value, you cannot be able to change the value of the constant. Now, in PHP, constants are global. They are global variables, and therefore they can't be accessed from anywhere within your PHP script. The other important thing to note is that constants are declared using the define function. So we have a function called define. Now, here, the define function takes 3 parameters. The first one is the name of the constant. The second one is the value that you want to assign the constant. And lastly, you can either enter here true or false. True or false. Now, this is used to specify whether the constant name should be case sensitive. By default, it's false, meaning it's not case sensitive. Case insensitive, meaning it's case sensitive. So when it's false, it's case sensitive. When it's true, it's case insensitive. Something like that. Okay, so let's have a look at how we define a constant. This is an example. So again, we begin by doing the define function. Then this is the name of the constant. Then this is the value of the constant. So it is not compulsory for you. It is not compulsory for you to specify the true or false. It's optional, but by default it's false, meaning it's case sensitive. Eh? So if you do echo greeting, then it's gonna output this on the screen. But because it's false, you cannot, for example, do echo. You cannot do echo greeting. You can't do that because right now it is case sensitive. And therefore, greeting and greeting are not the same constants. I hope you get that. Okay, so here we look at an example of how to make a constant name case insensitive. So greeting, but at the end we do the true parameter. So when we do that, we can't be able to use greeting in small letter, and it will still output this on the screen. Okay, so you can also declare arrays as a constant. You can declare a constant array. Now, we are going in the next chapter to learn more about arrays. But just to mention, an array is just like a variable, only that it can store more than one value. So far, all the variables we've been looking into, they can only store one value. But an array can store more than one value. So you can create an array constant using the define function. So how to do that? Define, then the name of the array constant. Then as you're going to see, when we define arrays, we normally use these square brackets. This one, this one. So we do the square bracket, then we do the values separated by a comma. So Alfa Romeo, BMW, Toyota. And the values in this array, they are strings. So if we want to print the value of the first array constant, we do the name of the array and the position of the first value, which is normally 0. Then position number, the second position is number 1, the third position is number 2, like that. So if we run this code, we're going to get the output Alfa Romeo, because it's going to print the first value in the constant array. So that is how we define a constant array. As I mentioned earlier, constants in PHP are global. They are global and they can be accessed from wherever. So for example, here we're just defining a constant and we can use it inside the function. And if we call the function, then it's going to print this value. Welcome to w3schools.com. Okay. So that is it about constants. Briefly, we are going to look at PHP operators. Operators are very important because any program you create, you're normally going to do some calculations or some concatenation, and therefore you need operators. Now, just like in C and any other programming language that you've learned, here we also have arithmetic operators, we have assignment operators, comparison, increment and decrement, logical, string operators, array operators, and we also have conditional assignment operators. So we're just going to have a very quick view of each one of them. Arithmetic operators, mathematical operators, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, modulus for giving the remainder. Then this one here, it's called exponential. Exponentiation. So this one is used to raise a number to a certain power. So like this example here is x raised to power 1. So that is the exponentiation operator. Okay. Then we have the assignment operator. Now, as the word suggests, assignment, this is used to assign a certain value to a variable, or the value of another variable to another variable. So the very first assignment operator is this one. So here we are simply assigning the value y to x. Then we have modifications of that together with the assignment operator. Now, if you do, for example, x plus is equals to y, it is the same as x is equals to x plus y. So similarly, if you do x minus is equals to y, simply means x is equals to x minus y. So sometimes we also use the assignment operator together with those mathematical or arithmetic operators to create short form of those formulas there. Then we have comparison operators. Comparison operators, as the name suggests, they are used to compare the value of two variables most of the time. So you must have one variable on one end and another variable on the other end, or they can also be expressions. Now, the very first comparison operator here is known as the equal operator. Now, if we do an expression like x equals y, that is variable x equals variable y, then it will return true if x has the same value as variable y. That means if x has a value 5 and y has a value 5 in it, then it's going to return true. Otherwise, if they have different values, it's going to return false. Then you have this one here. It's called the identical comparison operator. Identical is almost equal to the equal comparison operator. The only difference is that it returns true also if they are of the same type. You see, you can have 5 here and 5 here, but the 5 in y is a string. Yeah? That means that when you are declaring that variable, you did something like y is equals to 5. So you get that the 5 in x is an integer, but the 5 in y is a string. So if that is the case, it's going to return false. Otherwise, if both of them are strings, it's going to return true. Both of them are integers, it's going to return true. Now, the other very important one that we're going to be using a lot in our project is not equal, not equal. And here especially, I just want to bring to your attention the negation operator. This one is the negation operator, negation, negation, this exclamation mark. Negating means if it's true, it changes it to false and vice versa. So negation. So that's why not equal. Then the other one here is not equal. So this one returns true if x is not equal to y. They're very similar to the other one. Then this one not identical. Then the other ones are just mathematical. This one greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. Then another here is called spaceship. Spaceship operator. I'm leaving that for you as a reading assignment. Okay, then we have the decrement and increment operators. Now we have pre and post increment. Pre-increment, when we do plus x, simply means add 1 to x before evaluating any other expression. So increment x by 1, then returns x. Otherwise, post-increment will return x. That is, do other calculation before incrementing x by 1. So that's the main difference between pre and post. And we also have the decrement, which is minus minus. The pre and post concept remains the same. Then we have logical operators. Logical operators are also very important. Logical operators. So we have the logical and. Logical and. As we know from the truth table, true and true will result to true. Any other thing will result to false. Or, so true or true is true. True or false is true. False or true is true. False or false is false. So here with for, it can only be false if both of them are false. Then you have XOR. This is true if either X or Y is true, but not both of them is true. So these concepts are very important because we're going to be using them a lot in the logic part of our system. So let's find out. We also have an and here, another or symbol here, and not. So this is the not, the negation operator, not. And so anytime you precede any operator with this, if it had returned true, it negates it to false and vice versa. Okay, and then we have some string operators. The first string operator is what you've actually used so far. I think in the practical, we use the dot operator to concatenate, that is to join strings. So we did something like, for example, we have a variable name. So we have a variable name is equals to John. Like that. Then we have echo. Your name is space, dot, space, and no need for space. Then you can print the name. So here we have used the concatenation operator to join one string with another string. So that is called the concatenation operator. Then the other one is this one. This one. So this is called the concatenation assignment operator. Concatenation assignment operator. Okay. Let me see. Let me see if I can. Try to find an example. Okay. Let's say, for example, you have. Let's say, for example, you have F name is equals to for first name is equals to job. Like that. Then you have the second name is equals to appeal. Like that. Now, if you do F name dot is equals to S name, like that. So if you do that and you echo F name, then the output is going to be John or P. So this operator, it appends the second name on the first name. So the output of echo F name after doing this is going to be John or P, like that, without a space. So that is what the concatenation assignment operator is used to do. Okay. Then we have some array operators. For this one again, I'm leaving it for you as a reading assignment. So please find time and understand them. Okay. Then we have the conditional assignment operators. Here we have two. We have ternary operator and we have non-coalescing operator. Now the ternary operator normally has an expression, then a question mark, then something. For example, let me just give an example. So for example, we have a variable called age, and we assign it a value 15. So we can create, for example, variable called permission. Then we say age is less than 18, then question. Then you can say here, if that is true, then you want to say you are underage. Then full colon. Otherwise, we want to say you are a grown-up. You are grown up. Then semicolon. Something like that. So if we echo permission, then the output is going to be you are underage. That's the output. So really, this is what we call this is what we call the ternary condition operator. So the first part is this, a condition. It has a condition. The first expression is a condition that will result to either a true or a false. Then the second part here is what will happen if it turns to be true. Then the other part is what will happen if it turns to be false. So those are the three parts of a conditional operator. Okay. Then PHP, just like other programming languages, relies on conditional statements to achieve executing some part of the program, or keeping some part of the program. So in PHP, we have the if statement, which will execute some code if the condition is true. We also have if else statement, execute if it's true. If it's not true, it will execute some other code. Otherwise, we also have if else statement, which will execute more than two conditions, depending on the one that turns true. Then you have the switch statement, which is used to select one of many blocks that can be executed. So this is the example of an if statement, single if. Now here, we want to output have a good day if the current time is less than 20. So let's see how this has been done. So we've declared a variable t, then we are assigning it, we are using the date function. When you pass the date function, this value h, it returns the current time in 24 hours. So h here is for hour. So for example, right now is 2:57. So h is going to return 14. So this is going to return 14 right now. If we run this code right now, it's going to return 14. So t is going to store 14. Now here, the if statement goes like this: if, then some condition inside the bracket. So the condition here is 14 is less than 20. Then we want to do something. What we want to do is normally defined by this: the opening curly bracket and the closing curly bracket. So here we are saying we want to echo have a good day. So if we run this program right now, it's gonna print out have a good day. But it's 2:58. If it gets to 3, 3 will be 15. It will still print that. But if, for example, it's 21 or 22, then it's not going to print anything. So that is why we have the if else statement. So the if else will print something else if it's less than 20. So if it's less than 20, we want to print have a good day. Otherwise, we want to print have a good night. Have a good night. So again, we declare the variable t. We call the date function, pass it h for hour, it returns the hour in 24 hours. Then we say if t is less than 20, then print this. Otherwise, which is else, print this. So that is how we do that. Okay. Then we have the multiple if-else statement. Now, multiple if statement can be as many as you wish. So in this example, we're declaring t, calling the date function, passing to it h, so that it can give us the hour in 24 hours. Then we're saying if t is less than 10, print our good day. Else if, then we put some condition. T is less than 20, then, oh, this is have a good morning. And this one is have a good day. Else, print have a good night. So this is what we call the multiple if else. Here we can even do another if else. We can even do another if else. For example, else if, let's say here we want to begin at 10, then here we say this one goes up to 12 for have a good day. Then if it's past 12, then we want to say have a good afternoon, then have a good evening, then have a good night. So we can still have else if, else if. We can still have multiple else if for that. So maybe, so this is what I'm saying, that we can do if t is less than 10. So for that one, we want maybe to say good morning. Let me not create a lot of. Okay. Then we want to say else if t is less than 12. Like that. So we want to say something else. So we can go ahead and do else if t is less than, let's say, 15. Like that. We want to do something. We can do another else if t is less than 20. But finally, we must end with a final else. So I'm just doing this so that I can show you how to write multiple if statements. So it must not just be one, you can have multiple else if, multiple. That's why it's called a multiple if else statement. So always remember that in a multiple else if, you must still end with an else. Okay. Then we have another important one. It's called the switch. This one selects one of many blocks that is going to be executed. And it's particularly useful when you want people to choose from a menu. When you want people to choose from a menu. For example, when you go to the ATM and you're choosing either withdraw or you're choosing deposit or check balance. So depending on the option that you choose, a certain code of block is going to be, a block of code is going to be executed. So let's find out how this is achieved. So the anatomy of the switch function goes like this. It starts with a keyword switch, then in brackets, a variable goes here. Now this variable, most of the time, is an integer. Most of the time, it's an integer. Now, this variable determines the code that is going to be executed. Now, each code is under something we call a case. So you see case, then we have some code to be executed. Now, in the first case, we have a label, label 1. In the second case, some label. Now, this label is actually also a value. Now, if this value here matches the value of this variable, then this code will be executed. I don't know if you're getting me. Then this code will be executed. If label 1 matches the value of n, then this is going to be executed. Otherwise, if label 2 matches n, then this is going to be executed. Otherwise, if label 3 matches the value of n, then this one is going to be executed. Finally, we have this default, and we have some code that will be executed. So, what can we say? Here, on each block of code that can be executed, it ends with the keyword break. Reason being, break is used to bring the execution to the line after the end of the switch. Otherwise, if we don't have break, then it's simply going to execute the next line. It's going to execute the next line. But we don't want that. We want after this, because this case has matched, we only want it to execute this code and get out of the switch, because that's the purpose of the switch. Now, lastly, we have the default. This is called the default case, because the default is if no label here matches the value of n, then it's going to give some value. It's going to give some value there. Okay, maybe I can just give a simple example. Let's say we create a variable called option. We can assign it a value 0. That is 0. I don't know why it's writing it like. Okay, so that's 0. Now we can echo. Welcome. Choose a service. Like that. Choose a service. Then, for example, you can break. Then you can come here, enter option number 1, and say maybe deposit. Option number 2, deposit. Option number 2, withdraw. So break, just take it to the next line. Option number 3, check balance. Then we close that echo and we close that line with a semicolon like that. After that, you can have a switch. So switch option, like that, then opening curly bracket. Then you can say case 1. Then in case 1, you want to execute some code. You want to say echo, enter the amount 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. And something else. But after you're done, you have to break. Of course, you'll have something else to enter there. Then case 2, like that. Case 2, you want to say echo, enter the amount 1, 2, 4. Like that. Then again, break. Then case 3. Echo is just an example, but there's so much, there are many other lines of code you can enter there. It's not because I don't have space to showcase. And then check balance. So you can say maybe your balance is, then maybe you can print some variable balance. Then you have default. Column, default, you can echo and select the correct option. It means they have selected a number that is not between 1, 2, and 3. Maybe they've selected 4, 5, 6. Then we can close. So the default does not have a break, because after default is executed, then we get to the end of the speech. And this now is what closes the switch. This one here opened it. So that's just an example of how we can use a switch. Many students find it to be challenging, but I think it's very easy. It's very easy if you just understand it. So if the guy enters the value 1, then this case 1, the code here is going to be executed. If they enter 2, then this code is going to be executed. If they enter 3, then this code is going to be executed. So anyone with a question? Anyone with a question?
Excuse me.
Yes.
I have a question, though it's not from the last example we've done. It's from the previous one of using if, else.
Okay.
There was the example that you were typing out, the one that had the greetings and the different time. Now I'm asking, like for example, if the time is 14, 14 lies between like 3, it is less than 15, it's less than 20. So will the greetings arrange themselves, all of them, or how will you differentiate that when it's between this range, it can only give one greeting?
So you can always, with your conditions, you can always join your conditions using the comparison operators or the logic operator. So you can always join them using the logical operator. Just as an example, let's say, we want to output good morning. Good morning. If time is between, let's say 5 a.m. to 9. Like that. So to do that, we will do, so for example, we have time is equals to this. We take the hour in 24-hour system. So here we can say if time is equal if time is equals to or greater than 5. That in 24 hours, 5 a.m. is 5. Yeah, I think so. Yes. So like that, then we can use and, or we can use and. not typing. So here we can use and, or we can use and. Pushing to type and. Okay. And like that. And time is equal to or less than 9. Then we can echo, for example, like that. So really, we can always use logical operators. Logical operators. My keyboard somehow it's refusing to type and I don't know why. And shift and refusing to type and see. I don't know why. Seven, it's refusing. It's refusing to print and. But I hope you understand that here you can use the and, but two of them and. So we're simply saying if time is between 5 and 9 a.m., then say good morning. So if this is true and this is true, then it's going to print out good morning. So I hope I've answered your question. Have I answered your question?
Yes, yes, you have. Thank you.
So when you get time, please try out this exercise. We create a switch statement that will output hello if the color is red and welcome if the color is green. Okay, so after the conditional statements, the next obvious thing to look at are the loops. Loops are used to go around to execute a single piece of code or a block of code more than once until a certain condition is met. In PHP, we have 4 types of loops: the while loop, the do while loop, the for loop, and the for each. The for each loop. So let's have a look at each one of them. So the while loop is used to execute a block of code as long as the specified condition is true. I like mentioning most of the time when I'm teaching programming that a loop has 3 things. The first one is initialization. The second one is a condition. And the third one is an increment. So all loops, all the first 3 loops, other than the for each loop, will have these 3 things. Initialization is the initial value that it begins at, the point it begins at. For example, when you're jumping rope, you start counting, for example, at 1. Or if you're doing sets of 100, after you've done the first set, you've done some other exercise, and you come back to continue, maybe you start now at 101. So that's the initial value. That's the initialization. In this example, we declare a variable x and assign it the variable 1. So this is our initialization. This is our initial value. So here we say while x is less than or equal to 5. Now this is our condition. This is our condition. This here is our condition. Then this is the body. of the loop, what is going to be executed. Then this is the increment. This guy here is the increment. So we want to increment x by 1 at the end of every loop. So with this, then this code is going to output this. You see, we are printing x. So in the first loop, the value of x is 1. Then we increment it. We add x plus. We increment, we add 1. Then in the next loop is going to be 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. If it goes again on the 6th loop, if this condition is evaluated on the 6th loop, then it's going to turn out to be 6 is less than or equal to 5. And this is going to turn to false. If it turns to false, then the loop ends. And therefore, the body of the loop is not going to be executed. It's going to execute the next line after the closing curly bracket. After the closing curly bracket of the loop. Because it has turned to false. Because 6 is not less than 5. 6 is not equal to 5. So anytime the condition evaluates to false, then the loop is not executed any longer, but the line after the closing curly bracket. Then you have do while. Do while is very similar to while loop. Only difference is that do while the block of code will be executed at least once. This code will be executed at least once. You can see they say do, then do this, then check the condition. If the condition is true, do it again. If the condition is true, do it again. So it will be executed at least once. As you can see here again, we have the initialization here. We have the condition here. And lastly, we have the increment here. So what is the do while? Then we have the for loop. For loop is used when you know in advance how many times the script should run. So let's go to the next one and see. So this is the example. So the reason as to why they say you must know is because in the condition you must specify. You want it to be less than 10. So this is the condition. This is the initialization. Separated by semicolons. Then this is the increment. So if you run this code, it's going to print 0, 1, all the way up to 10. So that is the for loop. And lastly, we have the for each. Now, please note that this loop is a special loop in that it only works with arrays. It only works with arrays. It's used to look through each key and value pair in an array. So when we look at arrays, we're going to talk about the key and the value. But generally, the syntax for the for each loop is like this. So for each, then the array, then up. You want to save each value on a variable called value. Then the code that you want to be executed. So let's look at an example for that. So here, we are declaring an array called color. This is how we declare an array. We just declare a variable as usual, then we assign it to an array function. So array, then in the array we give it some values: red, green, comma separated, blue, clearly like that. So if we want to print values that are in the array, we can use the for each loop. So for each colors, which is the name of the array, for each colors as value. So we are creating another variable to store the value of the array on each loop. So we just want to echo the variable value and a break. So that is going to print in the first loop red, in the second loop green, and a new space, then blue, then yellow. This is going to be the output of this particular code. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of this chapter. I hope you've understood. I now take this time to invite for any of your questions. Anyone with a question? Anyone with a question? Okay, thank you.